Rebecca Moore's morning began like any other. The sunlight filtered through the oak trees lining Hollow Creek, painting long, golden stripes across the pavement as she kissed her daughter Emma goodbye and left a neatly folded note for her husband, Mark. The house smelled faintly of coffee and toast, and the soft hum of the refrigerator filled the quiet. Rebecca smiled at Emma's small, dimpled face and smoothed the child's hair one last time before heading out. The 5-minute drive to the local grocery store was a ritual, performed countless times without thought. Yet this morning felt subtly different. A small flutter of unease prickled the back of her mind as she adjusted the strap of her bag over her shoulder, waved at Mrs. Whitfield tending her rose bushes across the street, and pushed the automatic doors open. Inside, the store felt unusually still. Sam, the young clerk manning the front, gave a polite nod, noting the careful attention Rebecca paid to her shopping list. She moved first toward the produce section, selecting apples and bananas with a quiet precision, her movements calm, practiced. Another woman in the next aisle noticed her glancing over her shoulder, but assumed it was a polite acknowledgement of other shoppers. No one could have guessed that this casual glance would become one of the last images anyone had of her. By the time she reached the dairy section, she had vanished. Sheriff Daniels received Mark's panicked call that afternoon. Rebecca had not returned home. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Unanswered texts piled up, and a heavy unease settled over Mark. When the sheriff arrived at the store, employees confirmed she had entered but could not account for her leaving. Something felt wrong. A few witnesses mentioned seeing a man in a dark hoodie loitering near the entrances that morning. Another witness, a delivery driver, insisted he saw the same man observing Rebecca closely, though Sam, the clerk, swore he had never noticed anyone suspicious. Contradictory accounts clouded the investigation from the start, casting doubt on what really happened and who could be trusted. 2 days later, Mark received an anonymous envelope slipped under his door. Inside was a typed note with an unknown signature. She didn't just leave. She didn't walk away. Look closer at the store. You'll understand. Don't trust the cameras. There was no return address, no fingerprints, nothing else inside the envelope. The letter shook both Mark and Sheriff Daniels. Was it a cruel prank, or a clue from someone who knew more than anyone admitted? Neighbors came forward with conflicting stories. Some claimed Rebecca had seemed anxious in the days before her disappearance. Others insisted she had been cheerful, humming while preparing breakfast. A few said they saw her speaking quietly with a man outside her home the night before, while others swore she had been home all evening. Even within the store, memories diverged. One woman said Rebecca had turned left toward the back exit. Another insisted she had never left the produce section. Sam, the clerk, recalled a shadow flitting past the aisles so briefly it could have been imagined. Every account added to the sense of unease and confusion. The town began to speculate. The local blogger suggested online that the man in the store that morning was no ordinary shopper. He appeared to be watching Rebecca, studying her every movement. Some scoffed, dismissing it as sensationalism, but others were convinced they had seen him leave hurriedly carrying a brown bag that belonged to no one in town. He vanished entirely from records and cameras, leaving a gnawing sense of dread in his wake. Search parties scoured the nearby woods, abandoned buildings, and the riverbank, but found nothing. The sheriff's team reviewed the store's security footage, confirming that every door, every exit, every alley had been accounted for. Yet Rebecca had disappeared. Rumors of secret meetings, distant relatives, and hidden troubles in her marriage circulated. A trucker claimed he had picked up a woman matching Rebecca's description hours after she vanished, but further investigation disproved it. A supposed note in her handwriting was later proven to be a forgery. Each lead seemed to dissolve into frustration, every clue a dead end. The grocery store became a place of whispers. Employees felt uneasy, and customers sensed tension that had nothing to do with the store itself. Vigil after vigil was held in the town square. Candles burned in memory, prayers whispered, but no answers came. Even years later, visitors to Hollow Creek could feel the story's weight as they walked the aisles, unaware of the void left by Rebecca's absence. Mark more sank into despair, clinging to Emma as she asked over and over where her mother was. "Mommy will come back," he lied, though the words tasted bitter and hollow. Months turned into years, hope eroding into anguish. Emma grew up with the silent absence of her mother, marking each birthday, each holiday, each milestone with a quiet reminder that some things are lost forever. Sheriff Daniels retired without solving the case. Occasionally, he thought he glimpsed Rebecca in the morning mist, near the store, along the road leading out of town. But every sighting dissolved into doubt and frustration. As time passed, Hollow Creek spoke in hushed tones of Rebecca Moore. Life continued, but the town was never quite the same. The grocery store remained mundane on the surface, but beneath its fluorescent lights lingered shadows of the unresolved mystery. Questions remained. Was she taken? Did she leave on her own? Did the anonymous letter hint at something deeper? Or was it a cruel prank? Additional anomalies surfaced over time. A neighbor discovered a receipt in a trash bin outside the store dated the morning of Rebecca's disappearance, listing items she had not purchased. A janitor reported hearing low, hurried voices behind a locked storeroom door, though no one could confirm anyone had been there. Another resident swore she had seen Rebecca's car parked outside a distant convenience store later that day, but the claim could not be substantiated. Each strange detail created a tangled web of possibilities that only deepened the town's anxiety. Investigators speculated about a possible second party, someone orchestrating events carefully to ensure Rebecca's vanishing was complete. The typed letter suggested inside knowledge, perhaps from a store employee, a neighbor, or a stranger who had studied the town's patterns meticulously. People who had known Rebecca intimately began questioning every memory. Was her anxiety real or imagined? Were the conversations with neighbors truly innocent, or hints at a secret that had gone unnoticed? Every recollection seemed suspect. Mark eventually sought therapy and counseling, but the unresolved disappearance eroded him day by day. Emma, growing older, absorbed the tension and mystery of her mother's absence, carrying it with her into school hallways, birthday parties, and every quiet moment of reflection. Even the most mundane routines were tinged with the shadow of Rebecca's disappearance. Hollow Creek tried to move forward. New families moved into town, new shoppers filled the grocery store aisles, and life pressed on. Yet the void left by Rebecca Moore lingered like a specter, the air heavy with questions that had no answers. The grocery store stood as a silent witness to the inexplicable, a monument to a disappearance that confounded logic and reason. Occasionally, the town remembered fleeting details: the shadowy figure in the store, the letter that warned not to trust the cameras, the conflicting witness statements. But these fragments provided no resolution. Over time, small but unnerving incidents continued. A delivery driver reported seeing a woman matching Rebecca's description walking along the old train tracks late at night, though when followed up, the sighting proved impossible. A neighbor claimed the back door of the grocery store had been left unlocked once during a foggy morning, yet the footage showed no one leaving. Strange sounds, low murmurs, footsteps echoing in empty aisles, were reported by employees long after the disappearance, reinforcing the sense that something unseen lingered. Speculation turned into obsession for some. Local conspiracy theories suggested Rebecca had been abducted by someone with an intimate knowledge of the town, a planner meticulous enough to erase all traces. Others believed she had found some secret life and left deliberately, with the anonymous letter serving as a taunting clue. Mark, desperate for closure, followed every lead, every rumor, hoping against reason. Yet no evidence emerged, only frustration and despair. Years turned into decades. Rebecca's name appeared occasionally in news stories about unsolved disappearances, the files gathering dust in the police station. Yet for those who had known her, for Mark and Emma, and for Hollow Creek itself, the memory remained vivid. Some claimed to see her fleetingly, a woman in the morning mist, a face glimpsed in a crowd, but each sighting dissolved into uncertainty. The town came to understand a terrifying truth. Some mysteries leave nothing behind. Some disappearances are permanent, complete, and unknowable. Even now, the grocery store remains open, ordinary to casual visitors, yet steeped in a legacy of unease. The aisles are stocked, the checkouts busy, the hum of fluorescent lights unbroken, yet the space between the shelves seems charged with an unseen weight. Rebecca Moore's fate is unknown, her story unresolved. No evidence has ever surfaced to explain what became of her. Hollow Creek tells the story in whispers, a cautionary tale of how a simple step into a store can vanish a life completely, leaving behind only questions, suspicion, and the haunting realization that some disappearances are never solved. The town endures, the grocery store functions, life continues, but Rebecca Moore remains missing, a story with no conclusion, a disappearance that haunts every quiet moment, every glance down an empty aisle, every evening when the sun dips low and shadows stretch long. Some questions, it seems, are destined never to be answered, and some stories end not with revelation, but with an empty space that whispers of a life inexplicably gone. And remember this, Rebecca's disappearance highlights how ordinary moments can change forever, reminding us to cherish every moment. The unresolved mystery shows how the absence of closure can haunt people more deeply than the truth itself. If you love the story, kindly subscribe, like, comment, and share so you don't miss our next exciting story.